Where's Fielder?
He's gone to the dogs.
Friends, I want to welcome you once again to the Gone to the Dogs podcast. I guess you recognize this old gravelly voice of Steve Fielder, your host. I got an exciting podcast for you today. I finally caught up with one of the guys that I just, the old country TV shows and all, they used to end them all and say, may the good Lord take a liking to you. And when I met this guy, I just automatically took a liking to him. And he and I became good friends. We didn't get to see each other very much, just usually at the tennis center there in Aurora, which we just had an episode last week about that. But I'm just really glad today to have my good friend, longtime friend, Ricky Hawkins from the great state of Arkansas. Ricky, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good, Steve. I hope you're doing as good as I am.
Well, as they say, I'm probably doing better than I deserve, my friend. But
yeah.
But it's great to be able to catch up with you. I want to just real briefly before you and I get to jaw-jacking here. I know this thing could go all directions, but I do want to thank the people out of WU Hunting Supply, dusupply.com. They provide everything that a coon hunter, bear hunter, squirrel hunter, anybody that hunts with dogs, they got what you need out there, especially in the electronics field, your Garmin's or Doctors or whatever. They've got it, and they service what they sell. They do a great job with their customer service, and they're happy always to answer your questions. That's dusupply.com. Now, that pays the bills, Ricky, so we can forget about that. No more commercials. And we'll get into the main reason that I contacted you was just to catch up with you, man. What you been into?
I had a hip replaced 10 weeks ago tomorrow, so I've been laid up for a while. But I'm getting back out. I'm out here in the shop now. I've got some summer sausage in the smoker made out of a wild hog. We got my buddy just sent me a picture. He's got 3 good fat sows in the trap for in the morning. So,
well, you're from Arkansas, right? Is that where you're born and raised?
I was born in Bastrop, Louisiana, just across the line.
I got you. Well, somehow it just seems to fit that you'd be smoking wild hog sausage.
Yeah, we're overrun with them, so we got to do something with them. I started making bacon out of the bigger ones a couple of years ago. I tell you, everybody's tried it, likes it better than store-bought bacon. So,
well, you were telling me, I think the last time we talked, something about that, and
I promised this year I'm going to get y'all some up there to your camp hunt. If I don't get to make it up there, I'll send it up by Patrick Fowler. He's there close to Gary Miller. I'll have y'all some breakfast material this year.
When it comes to eating, and it comes to pork, and it comes to smoked pork, I'm your huckleberry right there, man. I love that stuff.
Smoke, that's all I use is hickory.
Yeah.
But do you remember the first time I met you?
Well, Ricky, in preparation for this podcast today, I got to thinking about that, and I can't remember the exact time. Was it at the tennis center?
No, it was, I think, 87 or 88. UKC World Hunt was in Indiana, up there where Beller lives.
In Marion, Indiana.
Probably Marion.
Or maybe it was the one that we had at Logansport there, not far from.
Logansport. That's where it was.
Yep. Okay. Did you say 87?
87 or 88.
Okay. 87 was the year we didn't have a winner that year.
Okay.
They got the Final Four, didn't tree a coon. But so we met at the World Hunt then.
Well, course, I went up there. That was my first UKC world hunt. I went up there with Tam.
Okay.
He was hunting Trump, and I was hunting the old Alabama Star female that belonged to him and Keith Conaway.
All right.
I'd had her down here and finished the grand, and I got her qualified. So we went, and of course, go up there to enter, and the lines were long, especially the A, B's, and C's. But over there in the Y's was short. Yeah. And I got in behind Tam, and Tam, he entered Trump. I stepped up. She looked, not in here. Well, Senor, he started getting kind of fuzzed up. he started kind of making a scene. I was like, he said, well, what name is on it? He said, Tam Young. You came over there. And what's the problem, Tam? He was throwing a fit. And he said, well, who does the dog belong to? He said, me and Keith Conaway. So you went over there and looked, and I was in the C's. And Tam got mad. He said, this boy hunted this dog, got it qualified. I paid the entry fee. I wanted him mine now. And we ain't going to go over there and stand in that long line to C's. We'll just leave. Give me my money. Yeah, he's going to drive back home. I mean, he done got irate. And I was talking, Senor, it's all right. I'll go wait. Nope, we ain't doing that. So you went over there and got it and smoothed it over. And I was thinking, well, we won't be here long. We're off to a rip roaring start.
Oh man,
that was good hunting up there. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
One cast with 150. We didn't do much good, but I really enjoyed hunting, and that's the first time I'd ever.
Okay, well, there was a few of those kind of situations down through the years, and I don't really remember that one specifically, but I always tried not to let the system or the rule. Well, if it was a night hunt rule and so forth like that, you got to go with that. But just a policy or something like that, if it made sense to just go over there and get that card and let you enter your dog and going out the door, that's probably the way that I chose to handle it, I would imagine.
Yeah, you had to do something. Tam had the whole line stopped up. I mean, everybody. I wanted to crawl in the floor, but anyway.
Well, we're talking about things like that, and I'll just tell you a brief one here. I get criticized on this podcast by some people that say I talk too much. And I said, well, darn it, that's the only reason I do this podcast, so I get to talk to my friends. And I have stories, too, that I want to share, too, with them. But it was in 1984 at Princeton, Indiana. The year that a dog called Hillbilly Mac, Raby Smith's Hillbilly Mac dog, won the world hunt. And I just had Duke Prue on the podcast a few weeks ago, and we were talking about that, and that was the first time I met him. He was just a kid there hunting his dog.
Right.
But anyway, everybody remembers Emmett Brohard.
Mm-hmm.
And, Emmett wrote for Full Cry magazine for a lot of years and all. And later on, he had quite a feud going with UKC. And people would ask me, why does Emmett hate UKC so bad? And I said, well, it all goes back to the World Hunt in 1984 because Emmett stood through one of those long lines and got up there and didn't have his paperwork on his dog. And Fred Miller was a stickler for that paperwork.
Right, right.
No ticky, no laundry,
Right. Yep.
And so, Emmett was pleading his case, man, I had this dog in the Final Four last year or a couple of years before and yada, yada, yada. And, of course, old Fred, he dug in, so.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how that little feud started. And then, of course, Emmett would write in Full Cry, and he would try to fire off a shot at UKC every chance he could get, and he called the
Yeah.
autumn oaks the autumn hoax.
Yeah.
Oh man, I tell you what, it's that stuff's all water under the bridge, but it's kind of humorous, really, to think about. But
Steve, it's people shy away from the truth a lot. It is what it is.
well, yeah, I had to be kind of political all those years I worked at registries. I believed in being loyal to my employer, and I knew, I always tried to present that employer in the best light that I could, but it's kind of fun now to be able to look back and see some of those things that happened and all, yeah. Well, okay, that's a good segue to get into your relationship with Tam Young, but I want to hold that just for a minute and go back and let's just Ricky, I know when I really enjoyed the fact that we got to talk quite a bit, around the PKC World Hunt there in Aurora, and then down through the years. But tell us a little bit about. You said you were born in Louisiana, and then bring us up through your introduction to hunting and about your family and all that.
Yeah, well, I was born in Bastrop, Louisiana. It's only 30 miles from where I live now. We moved up here when I was in the 7th grade. We had a lot of kinfolks here, a lot of family, and my dad was a big deer hunter, avid deer, and we ran. Well, there's still a few people run dogs around here after deer, and some people think it's not ethical, but it's traditional around here. I was raised up running dogs. That's what my dad did. He never coon hunted a day in his life or a night, but he ran deer with black and tans.
Oh yeah,
he had some of the old Maple Hill long-eared black and tan.
Yeah,
and that's what I was raised up with, and raised up with the black dogs, and we'd ride a horse and follow the dogs, and it was a big deal. We only had 2 weeks of deer season, and everybody moved into the deer camp. And my dad, he lived from year to year deer season, and deer hunting. He loved it, and he loved dogs. He was a hound man, but he just never was a tree dog man.
Gotcha.
He could train a dog to run deer and to load in the truck and to be quiet in the kennel, and he had the knack for it, and I guess that's where I got what little I do have. And, Tam Young enhanced that later in life, but my dad he's a quiet man and had a pulpwood contract, worked hard all his life, lived to be 92.
Oh, that's great. You got good genes then.
Yeah. He passed on a lot of good traits to me and my kids. I see it in my grandkids. But
well, Ricky, I tell people all the time how old I am. I mean, no use to try to hide it. I'm 75. How old are you now?
67.
All right. I got you about eight good ones in.
I'll be 68 in October if I live to see it. I've got plans. I was talking to Alan Stonesharp this morning. Of course, we've become pretty close friends.
Alan's in Oklahoma, isn't he?
Yes, sir. Central Homa.
Right.
I go out there, hunt with him all I can, and I turkey hunt out there. And we enjoy coon hunting together because we got the same philosophy about dogs. Exactly, I guess to the T. But anyway, he's telling me today his knee was hurting. He said, "Well, I'll be 59 in a couple of weeks." I said, "Well, try me a river, brother. I'll be 68 for long,
Oh boy, I'd love to see 59 again.
Yeah, too. But he still gets out and runs. You see, he's running 45 miles a week.
My goodness.
I said, Alan, I'm kind of concerned about your mental well-being sometimes. But
I heard a comedian say one time, the Lord didn't mean for him to fall over dead on somebody's front lawn. That's why he didn't get out there and run every day like he sees these
Yeah.
people running,
Yeah,
But
I tell people around here, you see me running, start grabbing iron because there's something chasing me.
that's right. Well, does Alan still have? Didn't he have a big like training pen area there and stuff?
Yeah, there's the cabin. Where I stay when I go out there. The old pen's still there. A lot of the fences down in a lot of places, and there's still 300 kennels out there.
Wow,
300. I think he had 270 something dogs when he died.
Now that's Harlan Stonecipher.
Right.
And he was very active in working with Ed Abel on that hound trust there in Oklahoma to keep hunting dogs. A lot of good work done by those guys over the years.
That cabin's still up in good shape because the old pen's kind of, like I said, the fence is down a lot around it. But a few years before he died, he went running pen.
Wow.
And with a 2-story pavilion, he called it a pavilion, but it's a kitchen and living quarters and all, upstairs. Go up and watch the dogs run and all that. And Adam went up there and built an 80-acre lake on it.
Oh, my goodness.
It's pretty impressive.
Oh, I imagine. Well, that's a name that's been synonymous with coon hunting. And, of course, Harlan was a wolf hunter, I guess, or coyote hunter. Out west, you guys call them wolf hunters.
Yeah, Alan, he's an encyclopedia of dog knowledge. He's as good a dog man been around in my life. We feed off each other, I guess.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy that at his roots, he's a black and tan man that I have very high respect for. He lives in Tallahassee, Florida, and he's getting up in age now, and that's Johnny Brinkley. I don't know if you ever met Johnny.
Oh, I met him one time at a hunt somewhere, but I remember the name, remember his dogs,
He's a consummate Southern gentleman.
Yeah.
Everybody that ever met Johnny, I guess, liked him. And as Johnny would say, real good.
Right.
And we used to sit around his table there and talk. I used to go and hunt with him for 2 or 3 days before the UKC Winter Classic over in Albany, Georgia. And we'd go there and we'd sit around and talk around the table. And Johnny would always say, guys, the reason I like you to come down here and hunt with me. And he had about a 600-acre pen there with an 8 or 10-foot fence around it. It was dog proof. And he'd said, because, we're all just dog men. We love dogs. We like to go hunting. We're not out there trying to strike and tree our dogs while we're pleasure hunting. We're not trying to blow up this dog or that dog or whatever. And he said, that's what I like. He said, I just like to come and talk. And man, I mean, the experiences there, I got to get Johnny on this podcast because I just had a conversation with Lee Currens, who is Johnny's a longtime friend, and we're going to try to get together and do about a 4-way deal. But when you find somebody like that, that's what I'm trying to get to here, Ricky. Is man, you like you say, you just kind of feed off each other, and boy, it's good. It's good.
I like to be around dog people. Dog men. Like Tam. Tam taught me more in one night than I could have learned in 20 years by myself. He's all about training. Every time we ever went hunting, he was always training. Always. Every minute, from the time you load them until the time you fed them, it was all about taking care of them and getting the best out of them. And, every bark, it wasn't a lot of conversation. We listened to the dogs, We wasn't looking at Garmin's and looking at cell phones. We were sitting there listening to the dogs,
Mm-hmm. Well, if I have a goal with this podcast is to, if we can't change today's hunter, at least we can let them know
No,
that we had a pretty good way of doing things back in that day. Now, I'm not for taking away all the electronics and all that because Lord knows it makes it easier for us to take a dog home when we go and all that.
yeah,
But at the same time, I like to share that that style of hunting because I'm kind of like a purist myself. I'd have these guys come from out of state to hunt with me in Michigan, a lot of them, and I didn't want to be antisocial, but they'd be just yakety yak yak yak, and then the dog struck out there. And I just kind of sighed off to myself out there a little ways, find me a tree to lean up against and listen to the dogs, and I'd have to apologize sometimes, and say, I don't mean to be rude, fellas, but I want to hear this race or this.
Yeah. I've never hid the fact that I'm anti-Garmin in the hunts. I was the last holdout in Reggie's deal that, before it died, the meeting up there, I was the only one. I was the last one. I didn't agree with it. I never will agree with it. It's like a video game now to me. I'm sure there's.
Well, I haven't touched. Go ahead, Ricky.
I'm sure I'll catch flack for that, but I don't care anymore. I believe, Steve, you could send me a dog now, and I wouldn't have to even hear it bark. I just take a Garmin and handle him in the hunt. You know where it's at.
Well, we're really kind of kidding ourselves if we think that the Garmin doesn't influence and can't be used as a tool to help somebody win a night hunt. I'll just say that.
Well,
I'm not I'm not going to stump and campaign that they take them away, but we're kidding ourselves if we say that we're not using them to our advantage and for sure.
Yeah, what kind? Remember when they came out with the little trackers that go on your side? Of course, Terry Walker bought me one as soon as they came out. But if they caught you with that thing out, you got suspended.
Yeah.
Many times my dog was, he'd walk into a dog's tree, and I wanted to know where mine was at. Lord, I wanted to reach and grab that thing, but you couldn't do it. But now you just watch them all the time, and you don't have to prepare like you used to.
Well, we've talked about how it's affected the handling too, and the style of dog that we're hunting nowadays is a lot different because when the dogs were all fairly close together, handler had to really be on top of his game, had to be listening to his dogs and his dog and the other three dogs, and really just playing that mental thing always. It had to be right on top of it. Now the dogs are treated to 4 points of the compass, and man doesn't have to get in any hurry about treeing his dog in there.
No, that's the reason that I don't go to them anymore, Steve. These dogs. You look at some of these play-by-plays, and 90% of them, dogs are cut, dogs are struck under the minute, 6 is running. It is.
I never could figure out how a dog could get struck just outside your light and then get treed a mile in there.
Yeah. That or they bark all the way over, just bark everywhere.
Well, yeah, you got that too.
People want to get all fuzzy about your dog, get jealous of them, but I won't hunt that style of dog.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to, Ricky. Every man, I think, has his preference, and he can find an avenue out there to hunt for the style of dog that he likes. I'm pretty sure, and that's good, But all right, well, let's not a coon hunter. Was not a houndsman. When was the first time you went coon hunting?
Let's see. I was out looking for some of our lost deer dogs one night, and the old man Sterling Atkins. He's dead now. He was the president of our coon. I think the founder of the coon club here. I stopped to listen. There was a dog treed back in there behind our deer camp, and I don't know, Steve. It just went all the way to my boots. I like that. I got I got to find out what that's all about. And I lucky enough that I worked at the paper mill at the time, and there was two old coon hunters out there hunted black and tans. They hunted the Riley Laffoon stock of black and tans. You remember Riley?
Oh yeah, very well.
Yeah, and
He was a field rep when I was at
right,
UKC.
right.
Yeah.
Fine gentleman, him and his
Yes,
wife.
yes,
Their
sir.
house. But these guys, they were just pure pleasure hunters now. But they had the magazines. I got to looking through the magazine. I would hunt with them a time or two. Boy, I was flipping through there and I saw that ad of Tennessee Fiddler. I said, man, I just got to look. Man, look at that hound right there. And we talked around, and Tommy Lee was one of them. Kim McGilton was the other. Tommy Lee had a female. He said, well, I hit him up about taking her up to town and breed her to Fiddler. I'd pay for everything, give him a pair of pups. And we made the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I had been through some cull dogs around here. Donnie Miller had some of the Screaming Eagle dogs. He gave me an old cull, and he treated a coon one morning after daylight. I climbed the tree and jumped it out. He watched it run off. W.E. Middleton gave me an old.
Oh, there's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, he gave me one of those old. He started out with what's those old? It was an old fashioned black dogs.
Well, they had Cosner,
yeah, Dad had the old Maple Hill
Herma
dog.
Vista, up at Bannock, Ohio. Was that the run? There were about three major. There was one around Greencastle, Indiana. That was Maple Hill, I believe.
Yeah, these were from Wisconsin.
Feaster.
That's what he had, and
Keister, I believe, were the Wisconsin people that I knew that had black and tans. But yeah,
that was it. That was it. Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
But he gave me one of those old dogs, and I was sitting down there in the bottom one night. And the old dog was trailing around. Become a coon in the moonlight and climbed a tree there in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that old dog came in there and made one ball up that tree. Oh, went right on. So I quit again, I went to Tam's in August 12th, 1984. I remember the date to breed that female. And he said Tam was just getting him. He was coming home from a boat that day or whatever. Anyway, I went over to Keith's, Conway's, and he had an old trailer out there in the edge of the field. I had my wife with me, which was a mistake. But anyway, he said, we'll go hunt. I want to go. Left her there in that old trailer by herself. Anyway, Tam, Clay was just a kid there. And me and Tam and Clay and Keith Conway and Eddie Fender and Joe Enderman was there.
Eddie Fender from Texas.
Yeah, they had that little sugar. No, it wasn't a sugar cookie. What did they call her?
Something cookie, wasn't it? Huh?
No, Sugar Baby, Tennessee Sugar Baby.
Oh, okay.
She was out of huckleberry sugar. Sugar cookies out of her.
Okay.
Anyway, we turned them loose, and Keith had a male dog that he called 18-wheeler, and Tam and Clay was hunting two little fiddler females. Boy, they took a coon in there almost out of here, and when they came back through that field, them two little fiddler females wasn't doing nothing but torching that coon. I mean, the male dog was about 200 yards behind. But Sugar Baby fell treed in the middle of the cornfield. And me and Clay and Eddie went to her. We were treed up a cornstalk. Sitting there treeing every breath up a cornstalk. Clay, being Clay, he went to ride to 80. And the females took the coon down there and treated it right, and that just made it worse. We went and looked at the coon. It was eventful for an opening night. But that's how I got to be friends with Tam, and it turned into a lifelong friendship. And him and Martha have been awful good to me.
One of the nicest guys I've ever met in this sport, and always have a good time. Most everybody calls me Steve because that's what I went by,
Right.
My name is Stephen, and typical of my family that lives in Tennessee, there, Dixon, just west of Nashville, every one of my dad's family called me Stephen, and
Right.
Tam always called me Stephen,
Yeah.
but I always enjoy any time that I got to spend with him, and when we started going to the St. Jude hunt when I was with AKC, Tam would always be around, and
Right.
we had some great times. And then I did get to go a year or two there to that Black and Tan reunion over there at Marianna, Arkansas, and Tam was there, and all. But just a great. Well, I wondered how you guys got started, and I knew you were real close.
Yeah, that was the beginning of it, and I just kept hanging around till they finally took me in, But I can remember Steve going up there in August, and it'd be hot as it is right now, and we might go to 5 spots before we could find a place to hunt. It'd be somebody there hunting.
Mm.
I mean, there was hunters up there. I mean,
Yeah.
But and then later when they bloomed on out, you talking about Kitty and Mike Ferguson, Tommy Ennerkin.
Oh yeah, with Tommy McQueen.
Tom McQueen, Tommy Ennerkin hunted over there with Gabby.
Yeah.
It was hardcore. I mean, he hunted every night.
Yeah.
Ham would be on the boat 21 days. He was off 21 days. He usually didn't hunt the first night he was home, but the 19 nights in between, it was every night.
Yeah, and his boy followed in his footsteps. Is Clay still on the boats?
Yeah. He's been a captain for several years now. And a good one, I hear.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Yeah, just great people, And
I love that part of the country. A lot of up there, Buford Pusser and all of that.
Yeah, from right there at Adamsville, isn't it? Where he's from? Yeah. That story.
She went to school with Buford.
Maybe some of our listeners don't know that story about, Walking Tall was the movie they made about him, but he was the sheriff that carried a big stick, didn't he?
Yeah. Martha's got one of those sticks he gave her as sign, Walking Tall.
Yeah.
Ham can tell you some Buford Pusser stories.
Oh, I bet. Well, that's another part of our sport here, this coon hunting thing, the stories that we tell and all that. Well, before we leave the Black and Tans and Tam and all that, which of Tam's dogs do you remember specifically hunting with, or that you liked hunting with?
The funny thing, Steve, the day that I went to Tam's, he hunted Fiddler the night before for some guy. I forget it. His name was Pat something, but he talked Tam into turning old Fiddler loose the night before I got there, and that's the last time he ever turned him loose. So I came along at the tail end of his Fiddler's hunting, but I hunted a lot of his pups, sons, and the Temptation dog out of him was my favorite. Sir?
No, go ahead. So the Temptation dog was out of Fiddler.
He was out of Fiddler, and the little singer bitch that Tam had was the best reproducer he ever had on the place. But anyway, there was Jar, I didn't really like old Jar to start with, but I learned to admire him. When we have those camp hunts over on the island, there'd be 20 of us over there. We split up in 4 groups and hunt. Everybody come back in to eat. Well, anybody want to go back hunting? Well, me and Tam and 1 or 2 more go back 2 o'clock in the morning, and we turn old Jar loose. Other dogs would be fiddling around there, wetting down bushes or whatever, and old Jar would be in there about a quarter. Of course, he didn't open on the ground much, but I learned to admire him because that's going to treat them late night coons. I mean, just like
He was
picking
a
grapes.
late round dog, was he?
Yes, he was. He didn't. As Tam would say, he didn't throw. He chewed, and that's what cost him the World Hunt. In what, 92? That's what cost him the World Hunt. He was in there treed at the end of the hunt, and Clay treed him, and the 2 got him. And the hunt ran out just before he could come back on the tree, and Clay walked in there, he had a coon. That's when old Duke won it the second time.
I got you. Yeah.
That was Duke, and Rick Stretch was Henry.
Yeah.
And Gary Magnum Mike, I believe that dog's name was.
That's one that Ed Yates had.
Ed Yates had Jerry Booker hunting him.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because that dog was in the Final Four the night that Hillbilly Mac won the UKC hunt up in '84 in Princeton, Indiana.
Well, maybe it wasn't Magnum Mike. It was something else because this was 92. I'm sure it wasn't the same dog. But anyway, I forget the dog's name. But I remember Henry and Jar and old Duke. I can't.
It could possibly have been. Just depends on.
I don't know.
I don't.
I know it was Jerry Booker hunting a dog for Ed Yates. But Clay should have won it with a dog, but he had a fault. He gnawed bad.
Yeah. That's a frustrating fault in a dog, and I've had a couple over the years. One that was particularly frustrating, and I never did really break him of it. Tried to, but I didn't have any success doing it.
Yeah. Tam put hog rings in his lips and all that, but there was a ton of good dogs come through that hill when I was up there with Tam. I mean, it just went on and on. That old Josie female that we bought from Barry Kitty, she wasn't that what I we got her. She never did anything for me but tree coon. But when she struck, he was just a treed coon. I never saw her quit a track. I never saw her tree wrong. And that's people. Yeah. I see some of these kids nowadays say, that guy's dreaming. He says he got a dog that's 100%. That just never missed, Steve. She ran a coon to catch him, and when she gave you that dead ball, you looked at a coon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know what happened, and there's a lot of talk back and forth about what happened with all these slick treeing dogs. But when I was a kid and a young man and coming up, and of course we hunted what we bred, but we never worried about going to a slick tree.
No.
It might be a den tree. We might not be able to see the coon.
Right.
And occasionally, you tree early in the year in October in West Virginia, those tall oaks up on top of those ridges. Right. It'd be kind of hard to find a coon if he wouldn't look, But you just didn't worry about that. You figured that coon was there. If you didn't get him, it's just because you didn't find him. He was there, I mean, we just didn't think about it, But
I know about 3 or 4 years ago, I was up at Tam's, and me and him and Clay was sitting out there in Tam's little coon hunting shack around that table and talking dogs. And I looked at Clay. I said, Clay, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, how many slick trees did you make in the wintertime? In a whole winter hunting, and you hunted every night just about. Boy, he had a funny look come on his face. He said, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of dog I like to hunt. I can't stand slick tree. My personal opinion, Steve, is it's lack of heart. I think they just quit. I think they give
Oh,
up.
I agree with you. I agree
I think
with you.
I
And I
think they give
think
up.
that that's why the sport has kind of evolved to where it is now with these ambush dogs. This is the old man speaking here, just my feelings, okay?
Mhm.
The song, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Right.
I believe these ambush dogs can't trail a coon. The only coon that they can tree is one that they can see climb or darn
That's
near see it climb.
I
And
still I still have a weakness for an old dog that can take an old grubbing track and drift it and put a coon on the end of it.
oh yeah,
You know,
and
I
that's
some
the worst thing you want to happen to you in today's night hunt. You really don't want a dog out there grubbing the track
right.
because the others are going to hunt far and wide and find these hot ones that
Yeah,
they're going to get into a different part of the world and get in a nest of them over there and beat you to death. While you're
yeah,
just getting this one tree. But it's just a matter of preference, Ricky, and the way we were raised and what we liked, as we came up through the ranks in the sport.
yeah. I had him. I picked him up at Walker Days one day. They said just take him home. He's been in the pen 4 years, and we're not doing anything with him. And I just brought him up here and turned him loose
Right.
and let him loose. And he worked himself into shape. There's a creek bottom behind my house here. I tell you what, I enjoyed listening to that old dog drift the coon track back through that bottom back there and tree it as much as I ever enjoyed anything in my life. He was for real, and I was just that's just a part of me and ain't gonna go away. I love to hear one drift a track in there, warm
Mm-hmm.
it up, and when they hit that tree, it's just different than popping one up to me, you know.
Yeah, and that's part of it. I think it goes back again, maybe to the electronics conversation we had earlier. It's just the object is to turn the dog loose, tree the dog, and get in there to the tree and
Yeah,
aim him on the recut and tree another one. That trailing aspect or the pleasure of listening to a good trailing dog that can drift a track and move and put some distance between his barks,
yeah,
telegraph back to you the condition of that track. Is it hot? Is
yeah.
it cold? Is it
Right, right,
medium? All those things were part of the art of coon hunting
right.
when we grew up. And I don't know if there's very many young people that are getting that, you know?
No, I don't know. I don't go to the hunts anymore, Steve. We tried to get our club back up going 2 or 3 years ago. Went there and cleaned it up. Had it in better shape than it's ever been, but you can't survive. 2 or 3 dogs and have UKC hunt. Nobody show up.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but Scott Reynolds and a couple more, he told me they cleaned it up. They're going to have a few hunts this fall, and so I guess they're going to
Yeah.
try to do something again. But it's tough. The small hunts are dead. The $30, $25 hunts, they're dead.
Well, I just saw an announcement today, I believe, that there's no more $30 hunts. They're going to be 35.
Yeah, they
PKC
don't.
has raised the entry fee $5 to try to boost the state escrow
Right.
and so forth. But, I see, and I applaud people for trying things to try to make it work.
Yeah.
But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think we got to go back to the roots. And, kids are not growing up in the country. Kids are not growing up in
Yeah.
the homes of a coon hunter or a houndsman, or if not a coon hunter, at least a hunter. They don't have the access. I have Ella's grandchildren here. Tyler, fine young man, is doing great in school and all that, but he has he has no clue what it's like to be out in the
Right.
woods and enjoy the woods the way that we do, and that's not an indictment against him. I mean, he's a great kid,
Right.
respectful and all that. Love him dearly, but he grew up at a different time, and I think
Yeah.
that there's just so many of those like that out there now that
Yeah.
I don't know how we ever get it. I don't think we ever will get it back to the point where it was, but
No.
yeah, you
Uh,
know,
it won't. I'm fortunate. Of course, I'm half raised my kids at the Coon Club, so they
hmm
just kind of
yeah,
Trey. He's playing music or he teaches school and he stays busy. He doesn't go in much. But my daughter, they got squirrel dogs,
oh
and
yeah,
I
that's
squirrel
good.
hunt a good bit in the
Yeah,
winter, and they go with me coon hunt a few times, and their daughter will go with me a night or two every winter. She's in college. They got so many other things going on, but it's still in their blood. It's still
yeah,
there, and
yeah,
we enjoy the time we do go. I most time hunt by myself, which I've
right,
always done it. You know, I guess that Tam Young always training will never go away. I'm always trying to make one better. You know,
yeah.
I
Well,
got a I
go
just
ahead.
nice dog. I've had a long time, Steve. I've got one dog, but he's easy handling. He's straight as air. He trees coons. I
Yeah.
enjoy hunting. He's
Now,
my
is
kind
he
of
a black dog or a Walker dog?
Walker dog. I
Yeah.
bought him from Madison Home Cipher.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'd like to have a dog, but
yeah.
I don't know. You know, I'd love to have one again, but I probably shouldn't get off into that. In my opinion of what happened, but uh, I just put it. I'd love to have a good black dog. I
Oh
just don't.
well, I'm sure you would, and I'm the same way with the. I've reached the age, Ricky, that I had to realize, and I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I'm saying here. I'm not an invalid. I can still go coon hunting. I go to the White
Right,
River and we hunt 7 or 8 nights in a row, and I'll go every night
right,
that anybody else goes, and I'll go if my dog's treat. I'm going to go to him, but I'm not going to be out here running the hunts and trying to keep up with these young bucks and all and dry and walking 3/4 to this one here and then turn around walk a mile to that one and all that.
yeah,
I just can't do that physically.
yeah,
But I do have some young partners on a couple of dogs that are helping me still stay involved, and I love it. I'll always love the sport of coon hunting and hope that I
yeah.
never have to give it up, but I know someday I will. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. I wanted to ask you: How much competition hunting did you do with the black dogs? With you and Tam and Clay
Well,
and all?
I I several years I hunted black dogs. Of course, back to
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
You were when
uh,
I came aboard. That's what
yeah.
you were judging steady.
I still remember that call from Roy Trammell, and I think it was '86. It was at Mayfield. Tam had recommended me. Back then you had to be recommended by somebody. You had to have an interview from Roy Trammell before you could judge.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Roy calling me and questioned me about this and that. Okay, so I started judging then, and I'd get a dog ready. That old female I just mentioned, and I had her ready. Tam got her in, won a couple rounds. Didn't go too deep in the hunt. And Temptation, he got him in one year. I could hunt him all year long. I was always getting a dog ready, but when I went up there, I judged full time. I enjoyed judging. I did. And Roy Trammell, like I told you, he was a Newt Rockney of coon hunting because he could motivate you if you didn't want to. You was tired and wet and didn't want to go. He had that. He had that way of, well,
Yes, he did.
I sure do need you. But I hunted several. I night championed. I don't know, several dogs. Most of them fiddler daughters or sons. Always kept down here working on them for Tam. He'd buy one and say, "Well, Rick, send it down there and you straighten it out and we can sell it. And we'll split the money." Okay, we did that a lot. I remember Tam when I first started with him. Back then, Steve, the biggest thing was getting them to stop and tree. I mean, I've heard Tam say a tree dog will sell itself. Nowadays treeing's the easiest part. Back then, they were junk. Them wheeler dogs were junky. They were wild. But if you ever, but getting them to stop and tree was the hardest part. But when they did tree, they had something. I've seen a lot of good dogs go over that hill up there. Jar, it goes on to Fiddler, Temptation, Misty. Misty died young.
Right.
4 years old, kidney failure. Won the world hunt and didn't live to see the next world hunt.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah,
Really a shame.
That was a nice female. He brought her down and hunted one winter. After she won a world hunt, that was a nice little female.
Well, I remember here, it's something off the subject a little bit, but still about Tam. You always called him, and Larry Meeks always called him, and I've heard other people call him Pard. Where'd that come from?
I don't know. I don't remember. I call him Pard or Senior.
Senior, yeah, I heard you say that.
Jack Duncan's the one hung Senior on him,
Is that right?
Did you ever remember Jack? Did you ever meet Jack? He came around the hunts a little bit and never hunted him.
I didn't know him, no.
That was Martha's cousin. He lived when you come off of 64, I believe it is there. Cut through town, you had to go by Jack's house. And Tam'd always tell Jack if I was coming, he'd be out watching. And I'd come by, he'd be right behind me. He was a nicest fellow you ever met. A good dog trainer. He just didn't care about going to the hunts. And he's the one that named the Wipeout line of dogs. A lot of people might not know that.
Yeah, I think when I did an article for American Cooner Magazine with Barry about the Wipeout dogs and all, and I believe it was he the one that told him that old Candy wiped them out tonight or something like that.
Yeah, he'd be up at Tam's every morning, sitting out there in that cabin drinking coffee and whatever. And I might ask, "Hey, what did Kitty do last night?" Jack said, "Wasn't nothing but a wipeout." And it stuck.
Yeah. Well, Ricky, you made a move there after I knew you and or first met you, I should say, and all. You got involved in handling some pretty nice dogs, and were running pretty hard there and making a lot of noise, getting your name called a lot, and all. Let's talk about that. You handled, I know, for Terry Walker and Mark Cross. Maybe I'm not sure.
The way that all came about, Steve, I was divorced, living down here in a trailer in town. Had that Storm dog, and I had a dog called Big Head that I'd bought from Stephen Gamble.
Yep.
He was out of Jar. And Shots Black Heart, Kenny Shot in Iowa. And Eddie Muse had tried him, and he called him, don't buy him. Said, I'll turn him loose in a week getting him back. But I went and bought him, and me and him just hit it off. Anyway, that winter, that Storm dog was notorious slick treeing. I mean, bad. But I hunted hard that winter with that Big Head. I mean, really hard. And he came out of it a coon dog. I mean, so we went to the Lone Star, and I got in every night with him. Dog just dominated the cast. I mean, I was hunting the pups, but anyway, I left there leading the nation, of course, so we had to hit it then,
Yeah.
But I went to the Mississippi State hunt, drawed Jarvis. Dog won the cast. It was frozen. I mean, like 10 degrees. Dog won the cast on an armadillo hole. Just a circle tree. That's all we made anyway.
Mm.
Come down to the, I went to Sunshine Jamboree and got in all 3 nights.
Did you say all 3 nights?
No, that was with Susie. I'm sorry. Let me back up. We decided Sunshine Jamboree was on the last weekend of the month, and they had a 3-night added purse hunt at Eufaula, Oklahoma.
Right. Okay.
And I told Tam, I said, let's play the odds and go to Eufaula. There'll be less entries, and all we need is a little money. Just stay ahead. So that's what we did. So we got stuck up here on Wednesday night and had a truck, 2 or 3 trucks and a tractor stuck up there. And we spent Thursday night up there trying to get those out. But got up Friday morning and took off to Eufaula. Wind got up, lost my dog, didn't win. But the last night of the month, I won $89. And I finished first in the pups. And I beat Daniel Williams from Manatee or somewhere over in Mississippi. I beat him by $1 for the 4th handler spot. That's when I won the handler hunt. I beat him by $1. I won the big head dog. I got him into World Hunt, and Tam took him home. Had some females wanted to breed to him. He died of a twisted gut, 4 years old. The Storm dog had a sinus infection coming down to January. We had, we was trying to find something to hunt. I mean, Tam was kind of a dog that got older or whatever. And Carr hit me up to hunt Elmo.
David Carr, $1 million Elmo.
Told me the deal, he'd make. He said, if you win it, give me $4,000. Y'all keep the rest. Okay. I called Tam and he said, we want to shoot the biggest gun we can fire. I said, well, that's the best offer I've had, senor. So David went. He had to keep him anyway. He went to the UKC Winter Classic and won it. I met him in Columbia, Mississippi in a Walmart parking lot on Sunday evening. Got the dog. I hunted him 3 nights that week. We had snow, ice. Never have that, but we had 7 inches of ice on the ground all week. Hunted him that 3 nights and then went up there and won the handler hunt. So then Terry came to me.
Terry Walker.
Terry Walker.
Yes. I'm just informing our listeners who we're talking about here, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I call him cross-tie. Anyway. Cross-tie Walker out of that old song, Green River. I don't know why that hit me, but I always... Where'd you get that from? I said, well, you remember those songs? I call him cross-tie. Or various other names, according to what kind of mood he's in.
Okay.
But he hit me up to handle dogs for him and sent old Pickles down here. And anybody that ever knew Pickles, she had to get used to you. Yeah, I called Terry and told him, I said, I'm wasting your money and my time. He said, stick with her. And she turned around, and I won a little bit with her. And then,
well, I'm going to stop you right there and just, again, I'm always filling in. I guess I get that from my dad. He was always teaching me something. Pickback Pickles won the national championship, PKC,
right.
And then Terry Walker bought her. Well, no, actually, he owned her when she won the or the national championship, I believe.
He got second one year, and then they bought her, and then Ronnie Smith won it with her the next year.
Right.
Beat Rocky Wilkes.
Mm-hmm. There's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good hunter. I like Rocky.
Yes, sir. He's had both knees replaced, I think. Back at it. Yeah.
Yeah, if I go to the hunts up in Georgia from here in Florida, I'll run into Rocky up there, And
Yeah, so
yeah,
we went to Chad Freeman, which is Spring Classic, way
hmm
up in the, and
Bucyrus, Ohio.
yeah, they said we bought you a new dog. And Mike, what's that? Mark, can't think of his last name, Mike. Anyway, he shows up with his dog. He pulls her out. I said, "My God, that's it? That little ugly thing, speckled, curl tail." He said, "I'm telling you, this is a coon tree and this thing you'll ever hunt." Said, "But she's leaving trees on me. She's been eat up by a big blue tick dog." Said, "If you get her out of that, she'll win." Said, "She just combines coon." So I brought her home, and that was the Susie female.
Yeah.
And it took a while, but she never did get over that fear, Steve. That cost me. It cost me Walker Days, PKC Walker Days one year. It cost me a late round cast at the National, a state final. If a dog came in there to her, if they got in her face, she'd leave. I mean,
hmm
it cost me a ton of money. But as far as treeing coons, she could tree more coons per acre than any dog ever been on my place. I mean, she just a magician.
Now,
But
was
then
she the dog out of Maniac? Or
Maniac Junior.
yep.
Yeah,
Okay. The old man's. Every once in a while, I can pull one out of that Rolodex back
yeah.
there.
I didn't
Yeah.
know till after all of that. Maniac Junior came from right over here in Hermitage, Arkansas, like 25 miles from me.
Mm-hmm.
Sure did.
Yeah.
But Scott Reynolds owned him when he had him when he was little. He said he's worthless, but he made something later on.
Yeah, he did. He sure did.
Now Tam, we was looking for another dog, and Tam called me. Uh, I went with a nice pup last night. Said he could be bought. I said, "Who's got him?" And it was Johnny Franks and Chris Franks from down in Manatee, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
So he got two little mates down there out of Moose, and I believe that female there's name was Lady. Anyway, he said he's a nice pup. And he caught a bad break on the late round and got third. But anyway, he can be bought, and he's worth the money. So I called Terry and I said they got two little mates. He said, "Well, Ronnie needs one anyway." I bought him sight unseen. I drove up to Tam's, and Chris brought them up there and unloaded them. And they were two totally different dogs. Their little mates, Cabo was
Mm-hmm.
a little small footed. Said he looked like his mama. He was cat footed and small.
Yeah.
The other one I named Dragline. Terry, where'd you get that name? I said, "Well, look at him. He was a more of a moose looking dog, big,
Yeah.
tall, a lot
Yeah.
of hair under his belly.
Yeah.
Best track dog I ever been in the woods with, but bar none. But and I talked to Johnny about that, Johnny Franks. He
Mm-hmm.
said, "Well, he ought to be a good track dog." He said, "We put enough electricity through him to light up Tupelo for 2 hours." He said, "Ricky, that dog has run two coyotes down by himself and killed them." But he was trashy, boy. But I mean, so I said, "Well, I'll let Ronnie have." His name was Cash, and we changed it to Cabo. But anyway, Ronnie took him, and I said, "I'll keep the trashy one." And he was junky, boy, and he could get out of range of that garment. I mean, that Tritronics in a hurry. He ran a coon the same way he ran everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But he kept a bad track and drifted better than any dog I've ever been with. Just strike it cold and have it fired up. I mean, in there 3/4 of a mile and have it treed. And it's faster than anything I've ever been with. I'm talking about from an old cold feed track.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
That's the
I
one
was
you called Dragline.
yeah, he was going to be a project. He wasn't in there yet, but so then I found out Ronnie didn't like Cabo, and he had sent him to Ohio with Rick Stretch. So I called Stretch. He said, well, he treated 16 singles last night. Huh. The spring Super Stakes is coming up. I called Terry. I said, Terry, I need that dog at my house as soon as we can get him. So he said, I'll meet you at the Island Creek Casino like that Friday. And I got him. I think he had $50 won. And we had 2 hunts at our club that week. That's the only chance I had to win his money. $10 hunt on Tuesday night. He did no good. And I did a little bit of adjusting. And that Friday night, I drew Richie McDonald with a little bit. Mm-hmm. One of the best females that ever drew a breath. I didn't say blue tick. I said best female. So
yeah, I hear you.
She was for real. Mm-hmm. And the black dog at Eddie Muse and anyway, they'd been winning a lot with him. 3-dog cast. I said, boy, I tell you what, my chances are slim. But we turned loose and got in there. They were split trees in 3 places. Black dog had a nest. I had a coon, and Bit had a big pin oak, and we couldn't find a coon in there. I promise you was there, but I got lucky. And we got him qualified. Got his money won. Mike Ferguson hunted him, and I hunted drag, and I didn't do no good. And Mike made it to the final cast, and should have won the hunt, but that's another story.
Now that's the Cabo Wabo dog, right?
Right. But then I took over, and we won a lot. I mean, I got third in the world hunt, won the Russ Meyer hunt with him. A lot of added purse money with him. You took him to a 3-night added purse hunt, they wasn't gonna shut you out. You're gonna get there one night at least. Moose and Johnny Franks is female.
Yeah.
And I think she was out of Old Maniac, or her daddy was out of Old Maniac.
Yeah, for the listeners who don't know who Moose was, that was the Wipeout Zach dog that Mike Ferguson and Tommy McQueen owned together.
Right.
And
I won the Arkansas State hunt at Gill, and I sold dragline to J.R. Roach, and you have to forgive me. My memory is.
Hey man, you don't you don't have to apologize to me. Every time I'm done, it comes to me. So
yeah,
you're among friends here, brother.
Yeah, Dick Whitmore.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. Dick Whitmore and J.R. Roach bought that dog, and they
Dick sit in has on, since passed on, Ricky.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dick told me before he passed away, he said, I'll tell you what, you sold me probably the best dog that I've ever followed. He made a real hand. When that song gun treat, he had a coon, buddy. I wasn't no doubt about it. You could take your saw or a bomb or whatever you wanted to. But we had a good run. I mean, Terry Walker, he was good to me, and he always has been. He's top notch. They don't come no better.
Well, let me interject right here. I've written for Terry for several years now. When I went to the AKC, when I left PKC, my last hurrah, so to speak, I approached Terry and I said, Terry, I'm going here to try to build a coonhound program. It's going to be a tough road to hoe, and we don't have a publication. The AKC had their Gazette, which was a dog show magazine. Right. And I said, I need some place to, post my winners and talk about this new program and all that. And he said, well, you got a place. And I remember that we talked about the tennis center. There was just outside the back door at the tennis center, Terry and I talked and
Yeah.
kind of made the deal with that. But I could never ask for a better friend or
No.
a better guy.
No.
And all the coon hunters that I've met, and I know Terry wasn't a coon hunter when he came into the sport, but he figured, that he needed to learn about the sport and get involved,
Right.
and he did, and he got some dogs, and I think you
Yeah.
guys about broke him
That's what he
running up
says.
and down the highway, but
Well, that's what he says, but he's lying.
I know that's true. I
But
know.
he's been here to my house, and he'd go coon hunting with me. But we came from two different worlds.
Oh yeah.
Two crazy different. But he never pushed me. It was always what I thought was best. If I thought I should stay home this weekend, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
You do whatever. You know the dogs. You do what's best for you. And the dog.
Well, that's
And
vintage Terry Walker, and I experienced that just a little bit. Just this last Grand American, I always go up there and work the booth with Terry, and I run my mouth, and he writes up the subscriptions as they
right.
walk up, and just a great time. I always do have a great time with him. And this year, I was coming down with the darn COVID and didn't know it, and felt really bad, and there wasn't any help to him. Really, he ended up having to come home Saturday, but just Terry's just salt of the earth. If anybody doesn't like Terry Walker, well, I don't understand him.
Well, he's been awful good to me. I need to see him. It's been a while. I need to visit with him. He works the fox hunt down in Louisiana. Maybe he'll come by.
Yeah, that foxhound registry, Hunter's Horn, is just going great guns for him and keeping him really busy. That's a really booming thing now, and all. But Terry, he gets around. He and my buddy Randy Smith from up in Pennsylvania, I think, just got back from another fishing trip up there, and you've been on some of those fishing trips with Terry, I think.
I went twice, and didn't want to go. Never been on an airplane in my life. I was just a nervous wreck, but it was a lifetime trip. The first one was cold and raining most of the time we were there, but the next year we went back, it was a trip of a lifetime, Steve. I mean, this trophy, fishing with Terry Walker is, they just don't make words for it. I mean, but he's been a good one.
Oh, absolutely. Great for our sport. He's really, that's a good thing, I guess, about these podcasts. You can just, like the old boy said, I jumped on my horse and rode off in all directions.
Right.
You can go anywhere you want to with these things, but since we're talking about Terry, it does so much good for the sport. He's one of the major sponsors, probably the major sponsor of the Grand American down there every year in January.
Yeah.
And
I never, like the Shriners hunt in Monroe. The big deal one time. Terry came down here for that. And he pumped a bunch of money into it. Just give and give and give. I believe that guy can get in that little Honda Accord, I guess is what he used to drive, at your house and drive to Canada and back. If you get a couple sacks of candy and a Coke or something to drink.
I know he could roll those miles for sure.
Driving is I ever saw.
I know it. Yeah.
I tell you, somebody else I'd like to see is Larry Meeks. I missed that guy.
Oh yeah. Well, I did a podcast with Larry not too long ago. Yeah, and I'll have to send you the link to it, and you'll have to listen to it.
I'll have to listen to it.
Well, that's how I ultimately, got to be friends with you, was because Larry hired me to work at PKC and all that. And, Ricky, there are so many people that have impacted our lives. You just think about it, and I know you do.
Yeah.
In ways that you just can't imagine, And I was talking to Duke Prue the other day. He's talking about his wife and daughter getting broke down on the highway near St. Louis hauling a horse trailer.
I saw that.
Yeah, and he posts on Facebook, is there anybody that can help them? And Billy and Amy Kovac Thomas,
Right.
they went and picked them up, and I don't know all the details, but, it just, man, I tell you, I have been so blessed. I used to stand up in front of crowds when I would get an opportunity and say,
Right.
and I'm going to use this microphone right now and say the same thing. I owe practically my whole working life, the education of my son, he is college educated, provided for my family all these years, to coon hunters.
Right.
Coon hunters have been the source of my income since 1983. And, and I retired in 2011. But I can't say enough, about about the sport and how good it's been to me.
I've made friends all over this country and
Yeah.
very few enemies.
Well, I have not heard anybody say anything bad about you. And
Well,
you're the kind of guy somebody one time told me, he said, if you want to judge a guy, just ask yourself, would you like to get in a pickup truck with him and ride 500 miles to a hunt somewhere with that guy? And if you say, yeah, then, he's a pretty good guy. You better stick with him. But, and that's the way, we've never done that, but it'd be fun. I'd like to do that with you.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, there were some other dogs that you handled besides Cabo, weren't there?
Well, that Susie female and Cabo was the two that I was.
Yeah. Well, you won a ton with that Susie female.
Yeah. And like I told you, Steve, and not, everybody's got an excuse, and I'm not going to put it, but if she could have stayed treed with a dog didn't have to be rough. If they just got in her face, she'd leave.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that. If she would have stayed, it was unlimited what she would have won. I had Walker days won, and sitting there treed by myself, 5's up, trying to get there. A dog been running the fox for 45 minutes, quit and came in there to her. Well, Merry Christmas,
I keep her
over.
Yeah,
but you couldn't take it out of her. It just wasn't going to happen.
Well, they all have quirks and holes, if you want to call them that. There again, that interview with Duke Prue talking about that Nowhere's female, and he said the hole in her was she couldn't handle thunder and lightning.
Right.
And so they all have their Achilles heel, I guess. But
yeah, how about thunder and lightning? That old Wheeling Bend dog that Tam had when I first met him. He was out of Tennessee Wheeler, and we didn't have tracking collars back then. That's anybody. If you talk to anybody about that dog was wild, man, trashy, but the widest hunter I ever been around. I hunted him for a month down here and lost 15 pounds. But you'd find him treed somewhere. I mean, he was unreal. Tam said he said he swam the Tennessee River one night just to look at the other side and turn around and swim back. He was wild.
Well, okay, so you're in southeastern Arkansas.
Right.
Yeah. Now, how far would you be from the White River Refuge where you live?
I think it's roughly 2 hours, 2.5.
Yeah. Just pretty much.
He's not far from the White River Refuge. Last fall, took him a hog I processed for him and picked up some corn. He runs a co-op up there.
Okay.
He's not. Yeah. I wanted to make it up there, and it's a busy time of year for me when y'all are up there. I got I got a deer processing business. And,
you're right in the thick of it then.
Yeah. Hard to get away, but I'm gonna do things a little different this year. I'm going to Oklahoma out to Adams and go deer hunting for a few days, and I want to try to make it up there. But if I don't, I'm going to send y'all some stuff up there about Patrick. I'll see him between now and then. and he'll get it over to you.
Oh, well, that's great. And I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about your smoking enterprise and stuff. But just getting back to that White River thing, I got into that back in 2010. In
Mm-hmm.
2009, Nubbin Moore had asked me to go with him out there, and it flooded that year. The water was up, and we
Yeah,
closed the refuge. But, there's other places I could go in the fall of the year, but man, I have such a good time out there.
yeah, yeah.
It's the fellowship, and of
Right.
course, I love that big woods. It's any hunter would have to love that big open bottoms and timber. And what a
You know,
beautiful place it is, and the
we
coon
got
hunting's it's good. It's not phenomenal, but it's good.
yeah, we got two refuges here close to me, Overflow and it's Felsenthal. But
Hmm.
I went with my daughter and them over there Saturday. They put out some lines Friday night, and I went over with them Saturday morning. Was running down the river. Man, there's a lot of timber over there dying. That thing has stayed flooded back in the winter, and it's
Yeah.
all those oak trees dying.
Yeah, that's rough too. And what I don't understand, and I'm not smart enough to understand what they're doing. I hear, what they say, but they're cutting a lot of timber in that White River
Really?
refuge.
Huh?
Yeah, they really are. And of course, they say they're opening up the overburden and producing more browse and all that for game. No,
Yeah.
they're trucking them big oaks out of there by the trailer load.
Mm,
And
mm,
it's sad to see that happen.
yeah.
Because that's virgin timber in a lot of those places in there. It's
That's like this Woodstock Island I was telling you about, where we used to have the camp hunts. That was you could see a dog tree for a quarter mile down through there. It was
mm,
wide.
yeah.
But that ice storm we had, I forget what year it was. It broke that place
Mm,
off those trees. Of course, they went in there and started logging it to try to save all the timber, all the logs they could. But
yeah.
it it ain't up with a big thicket now. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all coon hunting's gone. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
I hadn't been up there in several years and don't want to go. Really, I don't want to see it. I remember the way it used to be.
Well, I haven't been back to it. We talked so much about the tennis center in Aurora. I haven't been back there since that storm came through there and tore everything up either. And I don't know just how much that impacted it, but they had, tornadoes and all kinds of, or maybe it was ice storms. I don't remember exactly what, but
Yeah,
a lot of that timber's all broken up there too.
I was up there to Reggie's World Hunt. I don't know, 2012,
Mm-hmm.
13. I don't know, 14. I don't know, but there's more coons up there now than there ever been. We had some good casts.
Yeah.
3 and 4 and 5 coons. I mean, it was good hunting.
Well, the thing I enjoyed about PKC is I did get to hunt my dogs. When I was at UKC, I couldn't hunt. I couldn't
Right,
hunt in the hunts. The only hunt I
right,
got to hunt all year long was Thursday night on plot day at plot days because it was the all breed hunt and it wasn't
right,
licensed. And then
right.
they came along and made an RQE out of it. That kind of put an end to that. But actually, that happened after I left UKC. But I liked the idea that I could hunt my dogs in PKC, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
get out and get a free entry on. I had a plot dog and a walker female at that time, and
Right.
and so I enjoyed. I'd go for hunt my free entry, maybe hunt one more night, maybe a couple nights, and so
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. So I hunted most of those clubs around
right.
Aurora. We were
You know,
talking the other day that Rusty Jones said he didn't, really like to hunt land between the lakes, and people would talk about it, but I would rather hunt there than I would Camden, Tennessee, which I drew 2 nights
oh,
in the Super Stakes
yeah.
with my female. And,
Mm,
I think Billy and Avery Bell caught the last coon that went through that county.
yeah, yeah. I threw that there in the super stakes, and I got in that night with a little female, but it was just circle trees. I made it
Mm-hmm.
as it, but I was going to tell you the first night. that I judged in Aurora.
Yeah.
So I was full time. Back then you hired full time judges, gave you a place to stay, and
Right.
uh, I get up there and Mr. Roy says, "Got you a good guy here, Jackie Russell. It's Jimmy's brother."
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
was just trying to think of that name the other day. I could remember Jimmy, but I couldn't remember his brother's name.
Well, it was Jimmy and Jerry, and Jackie.
J-
Jackie wasn't out like they were. He just,
Jerry was the one I was trying to think of.
yeah, Jerry trained dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But this was Jackie. Okay. So we gather up. It was warm that night, and we go out there by the lake. And I hated hunting by the lake because that's up and down.
Yeah.
He's wearing cowboy boots. And I got so tired of looking at them cowboy boots going up them hills with that stream of Marlboro smoke coming out from the top. I left too hot on the side of that hill up there. I made it through that cast. I went back in. I told Mr. Roy, I said, "Mr. Roy, I know I've signed up for all week." I said, "But if that's all you got for a guide, I'm done. I can't follow that guy." I said, "He's wearing cowboy boots." He said, "All right, let me see here." He looked around. Here's your guy. He got some good hunting over toward Mayfield, Flatland. You'll enjoy it. Heath Crouch. Okay.
Okay.
He put me with Heath Crouch, and we judged and guided. He guided and I judged for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years in a row.
All right.
He was
Found
my
a
guy.
match, huh?
He was my guy. We
Yeah.
doubled up. We hunted 2 rounds every night, and he was my guy. We were a team. I mean, and
Yeah.
I trained. I brought an extra stopwatch, trained him how to run the 2 on dog if we were split, and it was fun, man. It was
Yeah.
fun. Enjoyable. He had
Oh
some good.
man, it was so much fun hunting out there. Just the whole
Yeah,
atmosphere of the thing. We talked a lot about the tennis center and how neat that was with all the hunters inside, but just all the dynamic of that world hunt and the
yeah,
super stakes and the youth hunt, all that going on for 10 nights in a row.
yeah,
And just, rolling back into that tennis center
yeah,
and no matter where you hunted, I tell you, I thought the other night somebody mentioned Ronnie Bone, and of course he was over around Clinton
yeah.
club over there, and
Right.
the closest I ever came to freezing to death one night was riding back in the back of a truck, coming out of the woods, coming back to Clinton.
Yeah.
Of course, October there sometimes it could get pretty chilly, and man, I about froze to death that night. I thought we'd never get to that club.
Steve, the year Awesome Andy won it, Mr. Roy let me leave early. I was supposed to judge early on Saturday night. It was storm coming in. It was snowing. The next morning, I drove
My
home and
goodness.
right away, and it was snowing, I think, when she won it.
Mm.
But, a lot of years you go up there, the leaves are always brown, and a lot of years it'd be off.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's different. Yeah, but that was a special place, special time,
Yeah.
special people. I mean, people like Grant Black, and
Oh, there you go. He's my
uh,
guy in that
Mr.
tennis center. I mean, of course, I love Danny and all those guys in there,
Yeah,
but Grant was the guy. I just kind of it's kind of like you and me, brother. I just
yeah,
kind of click with him and
yeah,
love, and I still communicate a little bit with him, on social media and stuff.
yeah.
But
That's
yeah.
good people. Man.
Oh,
Good.
yeah, the
Uh,
best. All
yeah,
those long nights in that tennis center while you boys were out there having fun,
yeah.
we had me sitting around in there, and man, it was nonstop in there, but the stories
Well,
and the
especially if Mike Harper was around.
oh, brother. You
Man,
mentioned that earlier. I think I
yeah,
saw your post on Facebook, and you mentioned Larry Meeks. Larry was at my house in Michigan hunting in the fall. He drove up. He and Roy
yeah,
came the first time, And I believe, now I could have that backwards. No, it was, he and Roy came up the first time, and I got to take Mr. Roy my spots and
Yeah.
stuff, and we treat some coons, and he brought a dog, and Larry brought a dog, and we just had a great time. They only hunted a couple nights with me,
Yeah.
but then the next time Larry came up, it was just him and the two of us hunting together. And on Saturday afternoon, we had, I think it was pretty sure it was Saturday, we had hunted the night before, and Larry got a call that Mike Harper had died, that he
Yeah.
had had a heart attack or whatever,
That was a sad day.
it was a very, very tough day. And as Mike,
Yeah.
Larry and I sat and talked about Mike,
Yeah.
because it hadn't been probably just the fall before. We were at a hunt somewhere up there around Mike's, because we went to Mike's house, and he grilled pork chops for us. And boy, I
Yeah.
mean, that man knew how to do a pork chop right. But
You know,
always such a great guy.
you'd be at the tennis center, but Joy Dog Food didn't bring 10 sacks and stack them. They'd bring 2 tons.
Yeah,
They'd have
yeah,
a whole area there covered, and we'd wear the sacks out all week long, sitting around there.
yeah.
You couldn't walk by there without Harper hollering and saying something.
Oh,
Well, then
yeah.
you go there for 2 hours talking, and Chip would just sit there and laugh. He
Yeah.
never knew what he's going to pull next on somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And Eddie Simmons would be over there.
Oh, yeah. Basil.
Basil's always there. I spend a lot of time over there because I love Eddie Simmons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody loves Eddie Simmons.
he's one of the purest people I know. He's
Oh,
a good
yeah.
guy.
Yeah. There's a little funny story about one night, Harper, I guess, and the Joy people know, they rented a trailer out there on a campground or a lake or somewhere around there, and they invited us all the PKC people out to eat supper with them. Mike was cooking, was grilling,
Mm-hmm.
So we drive out there, and we get to the spot, and somebody said, everybody got out, we're walking, and we walk right in this house, and walk in there, and walk back in the kitchen. There's a guy sitting there at the table, and his wife. And he said, "Well, hello, how are you doing?" We said, "We're fine. We're fine. How you doing?" Well, we back and forth a little bit. Said, "Well, where's Mike?" He said, "Mike who?" We gone in the wrong place.
Oh no!
We walked, the whole gang. There must have been 6 or 8 of us. We walked right in these people's house. Oh man, it was a great time.
Reminded me of a story that Mary Kitty told me. Tam notorious for going to sleep.
Oh yeah.
And Kitty's about as bad. To be honest with you, I think they had a hunt there at their home club, and somehow Kitty wound up riding with Tam, and Tam was going to take him home. I think Barry was asleep. Tam was probably half asleep driving, but anyway, he pulled in a driveway and said, "Home, brother Kitty." Barry gets out and gets his light, unloads his dog, shuts the tailgate, said, "Thank you, senor." Started walking up the house. Tam was backing out, and he had to run him down. It was at the wrong house. Wasn't even Barry. But,
Oh man.
he drove all over McNairy County, comatose half the time.
Boy, you know what? That brings up a subject that I probably ought to address sometime about driving sleepy. It's a wonder, and you got to say they're special angels for coon hunters.
Yes, sir.
Because as
Yeah.
many nights as we've drove as sleepy
Yeah.
as we could be, especially right at daylight, trying to get in and off a late round or something. And man, I tell you, I've slapped myself in the face. I've hung my head out the window. I've done all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah.
And that I would tell young people today, do not do that. I won't now. If I get tired, I'll find some place to pull over.
Yeah,
under a yard light or something. And
I've done, but I like the Russ Meyer hunt. The last night of it, I'd been up there for a week turkey hunting with Josh McCallis, and then hunted 3 nights up there. Hunted the late round 2 nights in a row. Got in the truck and drove all the way home, 10.5 hours.
whoa,
That's crazy.
yeah, we do stuff like that, and all
Yeah,
it just takes is a split second, for us to doze off and
but I had a pocket full of money in my hip to pad me all the way home. That kind of kept
that's right. You,
that helped.
that was burning a hole in your pocket. You couldn't.
Yeah, but getting back to what I first started all this conversation with Roy Trammell.
Oh yeah,
Uh, I didn't. I don't get into nobody's business about that. I don't know what kind of relationship you had with Roy when y'all.
oh, it was nothing but the best. Always
Now
got along great with Roy.
you don't have to say anything because it's not my business. I have my own personal opinion of Roy. I think uh, he was the godfather of PKC. He built it. It was his dream, and he worked at it day and night. I don't know how the man stayed sane with all the phone calls and but he held it. That old notebook he had up there at the World Hunt. You didn't draw your judge. Your judge was assigned to you.
Yeah,
And the first couple of years I was just whoever I got. But then after he learned to trust me, it was every night. Junior Jackson, Frankie Dukes. I mean,
yeah.
Roy, can you give me, can I get a break? He said, no, because you can get along with them. They like you, and and we don't have no problem.
Oh, he would have made a great psychologist.
Yeah,
He was our anthropologist or whatever.
yeah,
He was a people person for sure.
he was
Everybody liked Roy.
he was a motivator, man. You somebody to judge a late round, and he done been there a week, and you tired and wet, sore. He getting that low voice, yeah. Okay, Mr. Roy.
Oh yeah. I always, when he come up to me, he'd always put his hand up on your shoulder and go to massaging you a little bit with that right
Yeah.
hand there, and like that Rusty Jones said, you didn't need a weather vane to see which way the wind was blowing. You were going hunting,
He if he called you up to that room upstairs, it wasn't good.
That's
I
right.
got called up there one time, but after we left there, he went back and got the handler, and he got barred. It was a different story. But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah, we mentioned that, and Rusty said he didn't know anything about that place, and I said, "Well, you probably didn't have any reason to be up there. Is why you didn't know about it,
but
Yeah, what
I
great guy.
I admired that man as much. Uh, it was all by the book. He I don't know. Hard to find words. I miss talking to him.
Well, there were little things that he would say, and
Yeah.
you guys, there'd be a question or something, and the panel would rule on it, and they'd still be kind of yowing at each other a little bit about it or something, this or that. And Roy'd say, "Boys, y'all just need to go coon hunting."
Yeah.
And he'd just kind of walk them to the door
Yeah.
and walk them right out into the night and come back in. I mean, he just defused so many situations that way by his demeanor. And I didn't get to experience it myself, but they said back in the day he was a heck of a judge.
Oh yeah. 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 He was a standard we all had to live up to. And I tried. I took a lot of pride in judging. I enjoyed it, and Mr. Roy's faith in me kept me going. But
Yeah, we used to talk a lot about that, about judging, and we would say, Roy, we're using these same judges every hunt, and these dogs are never drawing each other, and we're not training some of these younger guys. And
yeah,
that was a thing that Roy he wanted to have a guy in charge of that cast that he felt could handle it. Just
right,
what you alluded to.
right,
And it was kind of a catch-22 for him because he was the guy that handled the hunt,
right,
really. I mean, I had my job when I was there. I was 7 years. When Larry hired me, he just wanted me to kind of be his right arm there to help him with whatever he needed. And
yeah,
Roy had the hunt, and Roger Dill had the numbers, and
right.
uh, and did the ads and all that kind of stuff. And we had a good team. We really
Yes,
did,
sir.
and I really enjoyed it. It was a very enjoyable time for me, and I did get to work close with Roy and get to know those people.
Yeah,
And of course, I'm not married to the woman that I was married to at the time that I was
right,
at PKC, but he was always so good to her, and
right.
and and she respected him, and really, yeah, it's nothing that we could say would even be the tip of the
No,
iceberg when it comes to
no.
Roy's value to PKC over the years.
Anybody that never got to experience the tennis center in the last week of October, just you missed something. You know,
Absolutely. I've never
tell me.
been tireder in my life, but I've
Yeah,
never had better times
right.
either.
You mentioned panels, and I've
Hmm.
sit on a bunch of them, but I want to tell you something about a panel. Ronnie Bone.
Okay.
I enjoyed sitting on panel with Ronnie Bone more than any panel duty was always a chore, unless you
Yeah.
had Bone, because Bone was going to sort through it in a hurry.
Hmm.
He could look. He could look in a guy's eyes and tell if he's lying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we go back over there to huddle, he say that guy's lying and that guy's lying, and this is the way. I said, well, that's kind of the way I thought. He said that guy's lying. He could smell one out.
Yeah.
That guy,
Yeah.
he's a special kind of cat. I can tell you.
Well, when I came aboard there is when we started doing the appeals. And,
Yeah,
when there was a panel there, we kind of wanted a staffer to be there just stand around listening to see what
right,
was going on. Not, to prejudge the thing. Of course, there would be an appeals panel too, but just to be able to go to that appeals panel and say, this is what Ricky Hawkins said to that panel. And this is
right,
what Ronnie Bone said to that panel. And this, in case he's changing his story, that's not what he told the panel,
right.
that sort of thing. And it kind of gave us a way not to influence the decision, but to say, paint a clearer picture of what that panel had been told.
Yeah,
And Larry Meeks, when I had him on the podcast, he laughed about being sitting on a panel and back before he bought PKC, and a guy had won a question and was over there playing cards, and Larry walked up behind them. They were playing. The guy didn't know he was there, and he was laughing. He said, "Well, they bought that story." And he said, "I learned a lesson right there,
yeah,
that they don't
yeah.
they don't always tell you the truth.
No, I had that to happen to me at the Super Stakes final I judged, but I won't call names and stuff. But they that was a bump deal. That you know, Steve, people shy away from the word cheat, uh, but it's reality. There has been cheating. There's a lot of jealousy in this sport, like any other competition.
Yeah.
And there's been I've heard the stories of the Purina race where they were drugging dogs and stuff like that, and they're true. You know it. There were some individuals that did stuff like that, but
Oh
there's no
yeah,
use. There's no use.
just about anything that mind can conceive has been tried, in this sport over
Sure,
the years. But it's been
sure.
by a very few people, not a great
No, it's
number of
not.
people.
No,
But
but
one thing, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I came from the Master of Hounds system. And when I
right.
came to PKC and saw the panel system working, I said, man, this is the way to go
Hmm.
right here. It's a better way than just
Yeah,
have one guy. And I had to learn. It's kind of like going to breaking into night hunting, and he said, guy said, how I don't really know the rules, this and that. And he said, just go and get you a few of those $30 lessons,
right.
and you'll figure it out. Well, that was kind of the way I was when I became a master of hounds for UKC and a field rep. I was the guy. I mean, and
Yeah,
I've had 4 of them breathing fire standing in front of my desk,
right.
and just have to say, boys, that's the way it is. That's my decision, and I'm not going to vacillate on it.
Well,
But I like the PKC system. I really did.
I do too, because the Master of Hounds deal, like when I first started, there was a UKC hunt every weekend within 50 miles of here then. And
Yeah.
but these Master of Hounds, it was on one man's decision, and he had a friend that had a question. You pretty much know where it's going to go.
Human nature being what it is.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Just like I used to when I first started, the bench shows were pretty big. I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
go to those, everybody, the judges that were around, everybody already knew who was going to win before the bench show ever started. Whatever breed he liked, that's what was going to win the show. So you were just winning. That's what.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of young hunters coming aboard, and wish there were more. And we
Yeah.
don't want to paint a picture to those
No.
young guys, but also,
Yeah.
when Chris Powell and I started that Houndsman XP podcast, and after I left and all, he came along with the one you mentioned, Josh Michaelis, and they called
Right.
it The Truth,
Right.
about coon hunting. And I know they try to get as close as they can, but you can't tell the absolute truth about this sport without including the bad along with the good. I mean, it's all there, and
It's life.
it's life. It is, but
Life. I mean,
but isn't it a great sport to be involved in?
sure it is. The best friends I've made in my life were coon hunters. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade on it or anything. It's a great sport, but there's bad apples in every cart.
Yeah, that's the toughest thing for me sometimes. I see things on Facebook, and guys will post things about this dog or that dog, and I'll know from my experience what happened and how that dog got to the place that he was, or this person or whatever. But it serves no purpose for me to go on and say, well, I could tell you this or I could tell you that.
Yeah.
That doesn't help. I mean, it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
And so you do, having worked for 3 registries, I've seen the good and the bad and the ugly,
Right.
but I'll tell you this, the good far, far
Yeah.
outweighs the bad. And I know you feel this way, Ricky, but just me being able to get together with friends all over the country, turn an old dog loose, sit on a tailgate or go out there and lean up against a tree and talk just like we have here for the last almost 2 hours now. We've got an hour and 50 minutes in. But,
that's, I know things about my little old dog they brag on. I don't. I just let it roll off your back because and back when they won, you'd say, shake your head and say, well,
yeah,
how did that happen? But it happens.
Yeah.
Everything has his day. It's like truck hunts. I've judged and hunted in, I don't know, the first 10 or 12. I don't know. Won one of them, but I was judging the first one they ever had. One Zeb won it. But it seemed like there was always one dog. It was his designated weekend to win.
Yeah.
It just seemed like nothing could go wrong. And like when I won it, I was just up there to have a good time. I was just proud to be there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I squalled a coon out of a nest for a guy. I didn't even have a dog on a tree.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So what are you doing? I said, I'm just having a good time, you know? And it works out, but.
Well, in Mr. Roy, you know, God love him, and he's gone on to his reward. But he used to always say, boys, don't just vote what helps you. You know, vote what's right. And if that dog did a good job and tree that coon, do everything you can to let that dog get credit for treeing that coon.
Right.
He believed that, and that's what he talked about, you know, to people and between ourselves, you know, when we talked and all. His heart was in the right place.
Yeah, he gave me that speech, you know. It was on back there about making sure a dog gets credit for what he's done. We were at the Nationals at Fulton, Mississippi. They had them, yeah. And I swam over and scored 2 dogs and brought them back.
Mm-hmm.
Benny Taylor was on that cast.
Yeah.
He just shook his head. Well, they went in and told Roy. Boy, I got a speech over that. First thing he said was, he shook his head. He said, no more swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't want you to drown.
I said, you told me to give a dog what he said, I didn't mean swimming. You know,
he didn't want to lose a good judge and a good friend.
Sure, but I think I got as close as anybody else ever did. So,
I know he had a lot of respect for you, Ricky, and yeah. Well, it's just great that we have the memories of these people.
Sure.
You know, and I wouldn't take anything for the memories that I have. People kid me about my stories. You know, I have a story for everything, it seems like, but those are all memories of good times that I've had, you know.
Some things stick in your mind, you know, at Mayfield over there. What was that little female that won it? Frankie Dukes won it with her. Anyway, I can't remember her name. But anyway, I judged him on Friday night, semifinals, and she treated 6 singles off herself. And the other dogs treated 1. That was the most impressive display of coon treeing, dominating the cast I've ever seen. Wind was blowing, it was cold. That little heifer was treeing coons. I mean, but I saw Frankie later on over Aurora do something I've never seen before. He treated den, that same little female, treated den, and the hole was only up there about 10 or 12 feet. He pulled out a handful of pennies and started warm around his mouth, getting slobber on them, spit on them, and throwing them over in that hole, and squalled that coon out of there. I never thought of that. He did it. I saw it. He had that saliva with that copper would make that coon would bite him when they come down there and they'd get bitter in his mouth. He squalled that coon out of there.
The female you're talking about was Half Pint Patty.
Half Pint Patty.
Yep.
Frankie died last year, didn't he?
Yeah, I think I did see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Well, Ricky, I tell you what, pard, to use your term, I won't call you senor. It's been a great visit, buddy, and we need to get back on this thing and talk about judging and doing some of the things because
Yeah.
you have got a world of experience. Ricky, here's the way I feel about this. What I would, there's never a day goes by that I don't think of something that I'd like to ask my dad. My dad
Right.
died in 2006. He was 88 years
Right.
old. He was a guy that was always teaching me something. If we were
Right.
in the woods, he was telling me what that tree is over there or what
Right.
that bush, And if we don't, talk to these people, how much would I love to right now, or you and me, sit down and talk to Roy, and
Yeah.
have him tell us some of those stories back in the early days of PKC when he was judging some of those 16 dog hunts, and
Yeah.
all of that. I mean, it's a treasure, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things about these podcasts is we get to record this stuff for, as they say, for posterity. We can, it'll always be around now, and maybe
Yeah.
someday your kids will want to, listen to it, or your
There
grandkids,
you
or
go.
whatever.
Like you just said, Steve, like to talk to them one more time.
Yeah.
I just lost a cousin 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
Taught me how to make bacon.
Yeah.
That's something I'll have. I want to pass it to somebody else.
Sure.
He passed that to me, and he's 85, died of a heart attack. But I tell you, he would have passed for 65. He was
Mm-hmm.
very.
Mm-hmm.
He was still lived a lot of life.
Sure.
Good guy.
You
You would have
bet.
liked it.
Well, Rick, this is not goodbye. This is just so long till the next time we can get it together and talk.
Okay.
Did we burn the bacon or the sausage?
No, I got it on slow. It's going to take about 6 hours.
I got you. What do you
You got to
cook
go
at about 225?
No, this wild hog, this pork summer sausage, especially the wild hog.
Yeah.
You got to go real slow, or your fat will just run out the bottom of the casing.
I see.
I got it
You
on
got to
about
let
100.
it kind of render in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I run it about 160 for.
Okay.
Because I only got 9 sticks in there, so it won't take but about 5 hours. But if I fill it all the way up, it takes 9 or 10.
Now, do you use like charcoal and then put your hickory chips
No.
or chunks on there?
I got a firebox sits out back, and I got a gas burner in there.
Oh, okay.
And I put a pan over the burner and put hickory chips on top of it.
I got you.
Then I replenish it about every 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, I've got a little smoker here at the house. It's got about 6 racks in it. It's got a little side box on it. And I use charcoal in it and then just wood chunks, and I enjoy it. I'm not at the level you are for sure, but I can do a pork shoulder or a rack of ribs or something, and enjoy it.
My biggest thing during deer season is deer summer sausage, jalapeno cheese. I think I made 3 tons last year.
3 tons.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But I enjoy it. It wears you out sometimes. This time I'm just kind of playing around. When you try this wild, because I don't make it out of a boar hog. We throw those away. A bar or a sow.
Mm-hmm.
You try some of this wild hog bacon this fall, you'll be back at my house again.
I'll be sending the check. Ricky, send me more.
Actually, I can probably ship that to you because it's not considered a game animal. You can't do deer, but I can do a hog.
Did you know Ross that worked with PKC Bagwell? I think it was his name. From Tennessee. He used to bring us and the guys on the staff a whole hickory-smoked country ham.
Yeah.
Sliced and in a box and wrapped, with cellophane or, wrap, saran wrap or whatever, Chirovac, whatever. And Benton County molasses. every year. Now, what a great guy he was. Now, he was involved with PKC, I
Right.
guess, in the early days, maybe like a Roy
Yeah.
Tramble type job or something early on, I think.
Well, I think he judged a lot of the finals and stuff too.
Okay.
Back in PCA days. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. But
Well,
I saw where he passed, a year or two ago, I think.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things. Ronnie Nickens gone.
Yeah, Ronnie won the last World Hunt that I
Yeah.
with the What's Up Doc dog when I left PKC.
That's the cast I was in.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
Ricky?
I've never cured hams. I'm want to get into it, but I don't know. I don't know. I do bacon and the summer sausage and all this other smoked sausage. So
that's another thing my dad would have wanted to talk to you about, because he told me so many times when I was a kid about how, they always hickory smoked their meat. They had a smokehouse. My grandmother had a smokehouse there on the farm. I've been in there many a time and see those hams and bacon and bags of sausage, smoking over that hickory, and they used a little sassafras in it. Green, But he said you got to put that ham in that salt box for 21 days.
21 days.
Not 20 days, not 22. 21 days.
Yeah, it's like this bacon. My cousin said 8 days. Not 7 days, not 9 days, 8 days.
Yeah. Oh, they were specific about it for sure.
Yeah, the hams, you're supposed to inject into the artery and get that salt around the bone. I don't think I want to get into that. I got too much other stuff going on.
I got you.
I'll just stick with the bacon.
Well, I'm going to look forward to that bacon this fall.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to look forward to our next visit, Ricky, and want to wish you the best, buddy, and want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And it's been a great time catching up with you. And
Steve, if you want to, anytime you want to finish this, I ain't got a whole lot going on right now. I'm just recovering from this hip deal, and I am going to drive 18-wheeler hauling corn during the harvest in about 3 weeks, but it's going to be 3 weeks before we start cutting corn here.
I see.
And I always help this farmer during the harvest, and I'm going to be able to again this year, thank God. So we can finish this anytime you want to.
All right. Well, we still got a lot to talk about, buddy.
Sure. But I'm any time is good for you. Just let me know.
Okay, Rick, I'll do that. And you have a good evening. And folks, that's Ricky Hawkins from the great state of Arkansas, a longtime friend and a coon hunter among coon hunters, and just so good to visit with him. Folks, like I end every podcast, kind of little play on words to the name of this podcast. If anybody asks you where I am, you just tell them I've gone to the dogs.